You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
Rachel here, and we're with Game Control Rewind, talking about The Last of Us. Really quick, though, I want to let you guys know that we are going to be spoiling the story, so if you haven't played it yet, you might want to wait.
Spoil the hell out of it.
Yes. So go ahead and introduce yourselves. I got two amazing people across from me.
I'm not quite so amazing, but I'm Grant.
No, don't.
And though I may look like her, I am not Ellie, I am Kaori Takee.
Yeah, she's got
I love your shirt. Her shirt you guys probably recognize from the actual game. Where did you get that?
E3.
Oh, really?
You just play the game and they give it to you.
Oh, I missed out.
That's the reason why I didn't, because I was playing it already before E3 came.
I know,
I know. Get a shirt. Come on.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know either. All right, so Last of Us has been out for a few weeks now. We want to get into the game, break it apart, break apart the graphics, the characters, the story, mainly the story.
Yeah.
So what did you think going in? What did you expect, and then what did you get out of it?
I didn't quite expect what I saw. I mean, I had played the demo beforehand. I had played the demo when G4 was still doing the demo for it and everything.
Oh, wow.
So that's how long ago the demo came out, and I loved it. And it really shows the power of the PS3 and how a studio like Naughty Dog, who produces content for the PS3 exclusively in the case of The Last of Us, can really leverage the power of that console when they only have to develop for one console.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect, because the first time I remember seeing it was when they started showing the Infected.
Yeah.
And then after that, for like almost a year, you heard nothing more about the Infected. All the other gameplay and the trailers they showed all had other people we were going to be fighting against.
The hunters. And,
yeah, so I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into going into it.
They kept the twist at the end and like the story elements really well hidden. So it kind of sucks if you haven't played it and we're about to spoil it for you.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have much expectation of it because I didn't know what to expect really. I thought I would suck at it, and it was actually better than I thought I'd be.
Yeah,
but
I thought I was gonna die totally.
I thought I was gonna get annihilated, but
really
the story was what was so amazing. The twists, the turns, even the big honchos like the bloaters.
Yeah, that the first one where you encounter the bloater, the dude busts through in the gym and just oh God! It takes a certain amount of ammo to kill a clicker, for example. It takes a certain amount to kill, like the regular, infected. But the bloater, it's like you really have to watch yourself, and the way he kills you is insane.
I know. But going back to like the story, I really loved how they told the story, because everything we'd seen, it was Joel and Ellie. And you didn't actually get Ellie right away. Yeah. And we knew that already that they weren't.
An hour and a half before, about an hour before you actually meet up with Ellie. So basically the story is like, you start out with Joel and Ellie, and
we start out with Joel
and his daughter. I cannot remember her name for the life of me.
Sarah.
In their house. And Joel's daughter dies pretty quickly. Yeah. And
that first 15 minutes of the game was amazing.
That was, I was like, what's happening?
So basically, their hometown gets infected, and the military comes in and quarantines off a large portion of the town. And Joel and his house are outside of the quarantine. When they approach the quarantine, his friend, or it's not his brother, right?
It's his brother.
His brother, and his daughter, the person there gets orders to shoot him and his daughter, and his daughter dies in the gunfight.
Yes.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, the first 15 minutes blew me away. And for me going into it, I am a huge Naughty Dog fan, like huge. But I was still a little bit worried that it was going to play a little bit too much like Uncharted. And that first 15 minutes to me was the game basically just bitch slapping me and telling me this is how this game's gonna go. It was darker.
Rachel.
Yeah, you're expecting Uncharted. It was just darker, much more violent, much more gritty, a lot more just adult and in your face than Uncharted has been.
I think it was a lot more adult. It wasn't very funny. There's not a lot.
No.
There's
There was
not a
no
lot of funny in this
much
game.
fun at all.
No.
There's not a lot of comedic back and forth. between
Ellie,
the
though, I would
characters.
find Ellie, she was very funny without trying to be. The things she would say and just how desensitized to everything she was.
She's an internal monologue. Did you notice that
Yes.
most of the time she's saying
Yeah.
what we're thinking
Yeah.
after having played so many games where we like are shooting people in the head or chasing after zombies or we see these monsters? Like she's like she's surprised by this stuff, but she's not jaded. She's not completely unbelieving.
Well, because
Right.
she was born
Yeah,
during
she
the
grew
whole
up.
thing,
She grew up
so
in the.
she doesn't know anything else.
So this basically we play the game 20 years after the infection happened, which I thought is a nice key. It's a nice element to the story because the different enemies that you Joel even says at one point the bloated are a version of the infected that had been infected longer. So there are different levels of the infection.
Yes.
And it even the way that they're infected for me is much more realistic in how they decay and how they die
It's
and
a
how they go after
very
you.
smart game.
Yeah.
It's very intelligent.
Yeah, and then I mean, for me, I don't mean to disparage any people who are Walking Dead fans, but for me, the Walking Dead mythology is a little bit harder for me to believe because I tend to be a little bit more logical about like I tend to nitpick like how do these zombies become zombies in
Yeah.
the first
Yeah.
place? How is the disease spread? Like how do the people like Joel and the people like Ellie and the other survivors, how do they prevent getting infected themselves? And from a normal zombie mythos, it tends to be a little bit contrived. It's a little bit unbelievable. Like there's blood and there's biting and all that stuff. For it to be spread by a fungal infection, it's logical.
Well, it goes off of something that actually is real, where they were finding in some third world country this fungal infection that would kill an ant
Yeah.
and then would grow through its brain or something
Yeah,
and reanimate
yeah.
it. So it is actually a real thing.
There's a number of different parasites and funguses in nature which make their host act really odd.
Right,
Like
yeah.
Like for instance, that ant presents it moves the ant out onto an area where it's all alone and it can be picked up by a predator, where it normally wouldn't be picked up by a bird or a predator and spread through the feces of the bird
Right.
and then picked up by the ants again. So I mean, it's just brilliant the way that they cue in on nature. And World War Z was a recent zombie movie that functioned similarly. It decided to use rabies as a protagonist to create the zombies.
Yeah, we've seen that before.
But we kind of need it to. Naughty Dog branched out and created something that was a lot more their own. Like
Well, it's
when you
very
see
Naughty
those
Dog.
infected,
Their
they're
attention
like,
to detail is ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
they don't leave any stone unturned.
Well, the way they set up the story itself was fairly amazing. I mean, they set it up with the flashback, of course, with him
Yeah.
and his daughter, and then we get introduced to this quarantine zone where food is very scarce. They have to wait in line for food. You are immediately introduced to who the Fireflies are. That there's like people who are murdering each other over.
It was very Half-Life 2 for me.
Definitely. And then
Yeah.
the cordyceps are what they call the fungus in the game.
Yeah.
And one of the terrors is a player playing this game is thinking, and they touch on this just a tiny bit in the game, is are the people conscious while this fungus is controlling their body?
Yeah.
I never even thought about that. I was shooting people right away.
Yeah, they
I was
touched on
choking
that.
people out. It killed so many freaking people as Joel, by the way. I have never killed, even in Uncharted and other games, like I killed or choked out so many people in The Last of Us that I felt like a freaking serial killer by the end of the game.
Well, that's
We
what you have to
were.
do to survive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I loved the different characters we were running into, like Bill, and of course we started off with Tess. But it was I think it was an older brother. Was it older brother and his
His younger brother.
younger brother that we ran into
Yeah.
that ended up dying?
Yeah.
For some reason,
he
their
didn't die.
dynamic, the younger one did.
No, he didn't.
Yes, Sam got
He
bitten
was-
while you're doing the sniper mission.
Yeah. And then,
I think I'm talking about a different
because
part.
him and Ellie become friends.
By the way, can we all talk about how many times we died? I saw Joel's head get ripped in half by a bloater probably about 100 times.
I
And
didn't die a whole lot.
I died a lot.
It took me a while to get the knack of the clickers and whatnot, but I got my throat ripped out by a clicker more than, like a couple dozen times. And that is gruesome.
Going back to like the characters, I love that we would run into a whole bunch of we ran into several different other survivors, but each of their personalities were so different and so strong.
Yeah.
Well acted, too.
Yes. Yeah, you couldn't help but just feel immersed in the environment. And, talking about environment, one of my other favorite things was, so going into it, I knew it was like a post-apocalyptic game, pretty much. It's been 20 years since the infection. But their use of color was amazing. Usually games will stick with browns and grays and black and white. But Last of Us is actually visually a beautiful, stunning game with super vibrant colors.
I agree. Yeah.
I love it.
I just wanted to clarify. I realized you're talking about Sam. I thought you were talking about Joel's younger brother. So that's why I got confused. So sorry, guys.
Yeah, you met like the older brother and the little boy,
Yeah.
and then the older brother ended up killing himself.
Yeah, because his brother
Right?
got
Yeah.
And can we also say that this is like one of the games that's been able to get Troy Baker and Nolan North in the exact same video
I
game?
know. I would have never guessed that was Nolan North. I had a friend tell me,
I had
that's Nolan North,
someone
right?
had to mention it to me because he's able to. I mean, both of them are able to embody their voices so much more than other voice actors.
I don't know. Usually Nolan North does Nolan North. So when I heard him in the game, I didn't believe my friend when they said that was him.
Yeah.
It's like, you're kidding me. So I had to look it up because
But it's like
it
two of the
sounded
greatest
nothing
voice
like
actors.
him.
I think that
Yeah.
the only thing that they could have done better was like if they had like two of the all-star women voice actors as well, and they would have like gone a trifecta of people. But that
Yeah.
was fun. I like that.
I thought that was an extremely interesting part of the game. I did find the game kind of dragging on a little bit for a
Oh,
while.
God,
When?
yeah.
Where?
It's long in general.
Yeah,
Like,
when you later on in the game and you took over as Ellie, that
in the snow area and then
the
outside of the cabins.
storyline with Nolan North's character, I didn't think was needed at all. Like that whole
thought-
chunk of
If this
game
was a movie,
pointless.
2 or 3 of those scenes would have been cut out.
I
for
thought
the
she
length of
was
time.
dead. I mean, I thought he was dead. I thought Joel
Yeah.
was dead. And I was like, oh crap, I'm being Ellie for the rest of this game.
I knew they weren't gonna kill him.
I thought that was kind of crazy. Then you see him, you're like,
They
yay!
could have
Yeah.
done that. They honestly could have.
I thought
could've.
if they had ended the game there, then yeah, I would have gone on thinking he was dead. But as soon as I realized, no, now I'm Ellie, I'm like, oh, now I'm Ellie. I'm going to be having to get supplies for him. I'm going to have to take care of him. And I think that whole like chunk of the game dragged on just a little
But
bit
that
for
was
me.
also the hardest part of the game for me. And that he was the big boss, and I died so many times.
Okay, that area, yeah, that boss battle, I found a little
gosh.
annoying.
Yeah.
The rinse and repeat. I hate rinse and repeat boss battles, and this was very run, hide, use your power.
Yeah, it was really
stab him in the
frustrating.
back. Run, hide, use your power, stab him in the back. And I just didn't think that story arc needed to be in the game at all.
I think, well, the reason why they put it in there was because they wanted Ellie to change her perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the pivotal moment where she started thinking, oh my God, I fucking killed somebody, excuse my French. And she literally, like, really mutilated him.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, character-wise,
Well, the first
because
person that she killed was the guy that was choking him in the water, and she just shoots him in the head.
I know, but she
And
went
was like,
ape on that guy, and he was gonna
But
almost
that
rape
story
her.
Yeah.
part, that arc and everything with Ellie and you're being Ellie, I do think it did have a lot to do with her character because
Yeah.
beforehand she was a little desensitized to everything going on, but she still had her innocence to her.
Mm-hmm.
But then once Joel got hurt and she had to take on the mom position, and you did see her character actually grow up a lot within that storyline.
Yeah. That's why I think it had to have been done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It was like you were watching her harden when you were watching Joel soften.
Oh, totally.
It was-
Yeah, he had
really
he had hardened
amazing.
himself at the beginning of the game. You start out with this like version of Joel who's like, okay, I lost my daughter. Like I am closed off to the world. Like I have my 1 or 2 people that I interact with,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no way I'm going across country. I'm going to stick here where it's safe, and I'm going to live out my life. Surviving, but I'm not going to risk it too much.
But yeah-
He's risking it. He's becoming more like emotional, and he definitely connect. When you see the last couple moments of the game, like that he's. You get that emotional tinge that he is so connected with Ellie that he's almost views her as his daughter.
His
at that
daughter.
point.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, but he's still the same Joel. Like he's still
Oh, yeah.
selfish.
You're the- but
Yeah.
you're the-
You know what I
But he's
mean?
the Joel at that point at the end of the game that you experience at the very beginning of the game.
No,
He's
because
crying
in the
over
very,
his
very
daughters.
beginning of the game, when he loses Sarah, it doesn't seem like he's a selfish man. At this point, like he has nothing
Yeah,
to
but
lose.
that's-
His life
at the end
revolved
of the
around
game.
his
Yeah.
daughter. Yeah. Hayden in chat wants to know near the end when we were saving Ellie from the hospital, how many of the doctors did we kill? Did we just kill the main one, or did we end up killing all 3?
I turned into a homicidal maniac while playing the game, so I killed everything that could be killed
Yes.
because I didn't want, especially if I could do it stealthily, because I didn't want to waste ammo. And I think
Yeah.
that the game creates that
That's
kind of.
awesome that you have to.
The game
hold on to your ammo.
creates that kind of necessity, and I think that it does speak to the fact that the game can almost change the way that you play it by
yeah.
doing simple things like changing the amount of ammo or changing the amount of health. You can turn into a really you could turn into an asshole.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
there's not a lot of health or ammo around, the game can actually turn you on your friends and the people that aren't violent or a threat to you.
Yeah,
so in the
they
case
did
of the
a great
doctors,
job.
I killed all 3 of them.
Oh yeah, so did I. They did a great job of steering us into different directions without me feeling like I was being pushed into a
I
direction.
was hoping one of them would drop a shiv. That's why I killed.
Right, yeah.
Did anyone else notice, because I've also read a lot, that why didn't he get his weapons back at the very end of the hospital? She could have been like, oh, by the way, here's your weapons. We're taking Ellie.
I kind of thought that there are, okay, the game is...
That would have been awesome to go down there
The
with all
game
those
is very
weapons.
linear, meaning it prepares you for whatever you're going to
But
experience
it doesn't
as it
feel
does.
very linear.
Yeah.
Especially running to the hospital and
Yeah.
like escaping from the people that are searching for you before you even get to Ellie's position. Like you have a number of choices, and the stealth mechanic is very important. Like if you play the stealth version of the gameplay, you're not just running from one end of a level to the other. Like you can move around the level very dynamically and like pick and choose your fights. But as far as the progression and what weapons you have available at what time and how you do certain scenes, like this is the running away scene and that scene where you end up having to make the choice, which is not really a choice, to save Ellie and leave the medical facility. You are set up with a very specific set of variables on that run out of the buildings so that you have the pistol and that's it.
I did have a little bit of trouble with the stealth mechanics and the controls, and I got a lot of crap for it on my YouTube. But I felt like if I was in a cover position and I'm behind here, there's another one here, and I want to run to the next cover, I didn't like that I would run to the next cover and I wouldn't instantly still be in the cover position.
Mechanic was a little
I
bit
would
difficult.
stand up, and then everybody would see me just because I was switching cover.
The cover
I didn't want sticky
mechanic was
cover.
a little bit difficult.
If I
Yeah.
hit crouch, I should stay in a crouch until I tell my character to come out of that crouch,
Yeah, I
whether I
understand
run
that.
or not.
But that's the kind of stuff that's like a little bit of a tweak that they could figure out. I feel like I kind of got the hang of the stealth mechanics. I made sure I had a brick with me whenever.
Oh, yeah,
Because
at all
like,
times.
it doesn't matter if it was a clicker or if it was like a hunter or if it was one of the military people, like throwing that brick ahead of time basically turned your encounter into a stealth encounter. Like you could use the brick in a quiet situation with dozens of people around, and hitting someone with the brick doesn't set off an alarm and like draw other people to you. So you could run up behind the person that you hit with the brick and then put them in a chokehold, and then you could keep your stealth. So I was like scrounging around for any brick or bottles that I could find in order to take with me into the stealth situations. And the shiv was the first thing that upgraded so that
Yes.
it
Oh,
could
the
use it
shiv's
more than
awesome.
once.
Yes, absolutely. And when talking about the clickers, I thought they were amazingly designed. We get a lot of monsters and stuff in all the survival
the
horror
bloaters
games we
better.
get.
Yeah,
oh
me
man,
too.
the clickers got it for me, especially the sound they'd make. As soon as I'd hear that,
Annoying.
I would just freeze and like, oh my god. I thought they were great.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with myself.
I was always looking for them. Like Joel has this ability where he can quiet down and he can listen for the.
I never use that unless-
I used it a lot.
I used it
Unless I was in
Apart
cover.
from the shiv upgrade, that is the thing that upgraded the most because it allows you to
too.
like see a large distance through walls and all that stuff, so you can see people way before they would ever notice you. So you can work your way around groups of people and pick off clickers, anything one by one because you're more stealth.
Yeah.
And I think that people tend to ignore how. Oh God, there it is.
That sound scares the shit out of me. So let's go ahead and get into the ending. What did you guys think about the end?
I don't know. I think it's a good ending. I think it ended the way it should have ended.
I wanted.
It doesn't need a happy ending.
I wanted to come
Yeah.
out and say to her that they were going to. I wanted to come out and tell her, hey, they were gonna kill you. I wanted to say what I was thinking in my mind, which is there's not necessarily any proof that they would have been able to do what they needed to do. You know what I mean? And the fact that it was like linked to her brain and it was like extended throughout her body, I felt it was like kind of a cop out to try and create that necessity to protect her.
I think it
I
made
think he
him
would have been protective of her even if she hadn't had what you would call a life-threatening
I don't
illness.
think he was protecting her. I think he reached a point of almost insanity, to tell you the truth. I think he had this calm, insane brain. He had no reasoning left anymore in his system. He's just like, this is what happens.
It
Stick
definitely
with
was
me.
for him.
Yeah.
See, I think it was more from from my side, I thought it was more for her because he knew that she wouldn't be able to live with it.
You don't get that from the ending, though, is that,
she wouldn't be able to live with it because
she'd be dead.
she would have wanted, she would have not have wanted him to save her.
And he shouldn't have
would have
saved
wanted
her.
to have
But you
died
didn't get that
to
look on
save
his
other
face
people.
just before they cross the river and he helps her up and they look at the town. You didn't get that look on his face that he kind of looked a little bit guilty.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to tell her anything.
Well,
he wasn't going to tell her the full story. It seemed like he looked like he was a little bit remorseful. And that's the thing with these main characters and these voice actors, with Troy and the young lady who
Ashley
did
Johnson.
Ashley Johnson. You get the emotion on their voice. You get Ashley Johnson. You get Ellie. You get Ellie's emotion. How like she's flippant over. She's excited about finding comic books. This and that. You get Joel's emotion and the facial animation really well. You can tell that Joel is remorseful and somehow even guilty at
Not
the end of that
enough.
scene.
I mean, at the end, you can see the shift where Joel's the one that's a lot more chatty, and then she's the one, Ellie's a lot more quiet, where throughout the whole game it's the other way around.
Yeah.
And I think Joel really just did it for himself. He's like, you know what, I'm going to die soon, fuck it. I'm going to have someone by my side. I'm going to lie to her because she's going to die anyways. There's no pure chance that she's going to survive, save everybody.
He saved her because he couldn't live without her because she had become his daughter.
Yeah.
But I think he lied to her at the end for her own, so that she can go on with her life, however long that's going to be, and find a little bit of peace.
Don't you think he felt like he lied so she won't be bitter towards him?
No, because I think for me, I felt that he did it because if he had told her the truth, she would have been upset and said, well, you should have let them kill me so that we could save others. And he just, selfishly, he saved her, but he lied to her for her.
I think he lied for him.
I think it's a little bit of both because, I mean, Marlene, the leader of the Fireflies, was the woman who was going to put her, like, basically kill her without her knowledge, which is kind of terrifying because this is the woman who, like, cared for her for a while after
She,
her
like,
parents
raised
died.
her.
Yeah.
So letting her know that would have been very devastating, and plus the fact that if he told her, Marlene said that Ellie would have wanted herself to be given for this cause.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Which is true,
It's
I think.
probably true.
Which means that if he told her, she could have just turned around and said, well, I'm going back. And what would she find when she went back? She would find that he killed everyone.
Everybody. Yeah.
Oh well.
I'd stay with that guy. The guy that killed the whole hospital for me, I'd stay with him. Because that's, you know you're going to be safe.
He killed more humans than infected.
Yeah.
I was trying to keep track. I thought I killed a pretty even amount.
Oh,
I mean,
man,
I
no.
killed. I killed a pretty.
I
even
killed
amount.
everything that moved that I could kill.
Couldn't kill the
What do you guys think was
giraffes.
like the most
Slaughtered it.
challenging part of the game?
If it's not for the Nolan North boss fight,
Yeah, that was.
it was probably the sniper scene where the guy was up in the house
Yeah.
and oh my god, the enemies just kept coming and he had a really good shot on me and I ended up having to go around to the right all the way around the back of the houses and I went up and there it was.
But then behind the houses, they ambush you.
Yeah. They were just coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So many survivors.
And I like how I played a game Remember Me recently, and as much as I liked the game, getting into each arena or place where you would counter enemies was very easy to spot. You would drop down off of a ledge, you wouldn't be able to back out until you finished off the group of enemies. And then the areas that you fought in were very much like bowls, so you could see them from a mile away. Like you could prepare and you could even see the encounter coming before you saw the first enemy. It wasn't like that with The Last of Us. Every single encounter was a mystery to me. It caught me off guard. The enemies came from like odd locations. Like they everything that they did
It wasn't
with the
just a
game
monster
was-
closet.
Yeah.
the monster closet. That's a really good example. Is that a terminology that I don't know about?
That's what I call them, monster closets.
That's a
It's
really
Rachel's.
good spawn closet.
Yeah.
Or a monster closet. That's a really good example. But yeah, there was nothing like that in The Last of Us. They hid all of the gameplay mechanics that would have taken you out of the game really well, so that it plays like a movie. And that's my only gripe. My only gripe with it, despite all my misgivings with the choices or killing and the way that the story went. My only real gripe that I can point to is that it plays too much like a movie, and it's a little long, and that's about it.
I don't think it was too long. I think it was
it's worth it.
time.
It's definitely worth it because if
yeah.
I'm spending $60 on a game like this, like the amount of time that it takes and it did take is definitely worth it.
And you want to go back and play again in a different and use your things and make different choices.
Yeah,
too.
I started a new game plus.
Yeah.
I think a lot of I use the pistol a lot, and I upgraded both pistols quite a bit, and then I use the shotgun on hunters because they would instead of rushing towards me, they would seek cover so I
Yeah.
could get closer to the hunters and the military personnel with the shotgun. But I heard a lot of people use the hunting rifle, and the hunting rifle is like I just never had a lot of ammo with the hunting rifle.
neither did I.
Yeah.
So I never really thought that like using it in a drawn out encounter where there were like 20 enemies was a really smart thing to do.
Yeah,
But I could switch out between the weapons pretty easily.
I love the bow and arrow in general. That's my favorite weapon in any game, but I never used it in this one.
It was just
I didn't either.
from the beginning. It came out under. I think it would have been good for them to include the bow and arrow with a limited amount of ammo, and you could only use it in like maybe 3 arrows.
Yeah.
But what they did in order to make it less effective at the very beginning is
Yes.
they decrease the range on it, and they increase the amount of time that it takes to pull the bow and arrow. So I didn't use it as much because of that. If it had been a longer range weapon or a quieter weapon right off the bat, and the ammo was just a little bit more difficult to find, I probably would have gone with the bow and arrow more often.
I actually think it's genius how they did the weapons though, because
Yeah.
everyone has their weapons that they like to use.
Yeah.
And I hate the bow and arrow in multiplayer. Like the multiplayer in this game is really fun. If you
Yeah.
guys haven't played it, I hate
No,
it in
it's
a
really good.
multiplayer. But in the game, I found myself using it more and more on humans because I could go around corners, knock them out, and they wouldn't find me.
Yeah.
And then everyone with the weapon upgrades, you can choose your own weapon upgrades, and you're not going to upgrade everything, so you have to make choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the guns that you choose, like I got armor-piercing rounds in the hunting rifle right before the hospital, and that saved my life because all the guys are wearing helmets, and I didn't have enough
Yeah, that's
ammo.
true. You really had to aim if you didn't have the armor-piercing rounds, not only to make each bullet count, but to work your way around their armor. Because there are some weak spots on on all the creatures that you encounter. There are some weak spots. Like you're not going to be shooting something in the chest if you're fighting against the zombie. You're going to be going for the head for the most part.
The bloater had no weak spot except the Molotov cocktail.
Yeah. What would you guys say is one of the moments in the game that's going to stick with you that you'll always remember out of this game?
Everybody's saying the giraffe, and I'm not like.
I would disagree, but yeah.
That was
I know
a
everyone's saying-
beautiful
It is
moment, but
beautiful,
it's not
beautiful.
mine.
It's a little
just-
random, but
Give me a second. If you have one, I'll think about it.
I would say when Joel went to and he found his brother, and then they went horseback riding together looking for Ellie.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about that moment, but that was probably one of the most like emotional and one of my favorites, just because it was a snippet that we had of present day Joel with his past or something. And it was nice.
I like that scene mostly because you didn't even
kinda like
know that his
Skyrim too.
brother was alive for most of the game.
Yeah.
Right.
You didn't know, like, I got to maybe 15, close to 17 hours, and I didn't even know that the brother was alive.
That's what
Like,
he was talking about the
he
whole
talked about, he
time.
talked, okay, honestly, you can't pick up on every single cue in the game, and it didn't drop it so often that, like, we're going to meet my brother, or we're going to see him, or, like, he's a dick.
I thought that
and
was
he's dead.
obvious.
It wasn't as obvious to me. And I was playing it with headphones, and I had the subtitles on too, and I didn't catch that until much later in the game. But I thought it was nice because, like, I thought he was a lost cause, my
Yeah.
brother, and to find him in not only good health, but like
married
Yeah, and it made it seem as though he was like a rogue character at the very beginning of the game, and there's nothing to reassure you that he's actually an upstanding person, although he seems like that at the beginning of the game.
For me, mine's a weird one because it's not like story or character driven. It's more just like it was a really panicked scene in the game. And I play a lot of survival horror, and it's very hard to get me panicking in a game. And it was a time where Joel actually fell into it or was in a trap, and he was hanging upside down. And we were having to shoot.
Oh, that was
Clickers
difficult.
and
Oh gosh.
Oh my
I ran out
God.
of ammo so quick.
I was just screaming. I was like,
Basically,
the whole
I
time.
let the zombies run up to me at that point, and I let them, like, I had to grapple with them because the best thing for me to do was to allow them to grapple with me, and then as soon as I push them off, the gun centers on their head and it's a single shot.
That was another thing, is it controlled really well.
I was wasting too much ammo trying to hit them.
I was doing the same thing, except for the clickers, because you couldn't let the clickers get to you. But I mean, one, we're hanging upside down. It's extremely panicked. There's action. You know, he's screaming, Ellie's screaming. There's clickers and monsters coming in at you really quickly. But no matter what, it controlled really well for being upside down.
For me, the best part of the game was either the school near the beginning of the game, or I would say the hotel in, I think it's Louisiana, the hotel in Louisiana. I took out everybody in that hotel stealthily. By using not a single person got the jump on me, and it really, for me, highlighted the stealth mechanics of the gameplay and how, like, you could play this game and you could actually do a lot of damage without wasting a single bullet.
I was all about stealth myself too.
And I don't think a lot of stealth games really give you that choice. Like, it's this game, you could do both. You could go in guns blazing. You could stand back and pick off people as they come down a hallway. There is a lot of different pathways through each level, so you have to watch your back, and they do work well together. The enemies, whether it's the hunters or the infected. But I enjoyed that level quite a bit. The draft, not so much.
Can I throw out a few things that really struck me? The moment in the game that had me the most, like, panicked. Not the hanging upside down scene. I actually shot him in the head better while I was hanging upside down. But when you're in the, when you fall down the elevator in the hotel.
And you're in the
I played that in the demo, so I knew that it wasn't going to be as difficult as it seemed.
Yeah.
But that when you turn the generator on, you're like trying to find the key card and you're trying to get out of there.
It's terrifying.
Yeah,
turn the generator on last, by the way.
God.
If you're ever playing, for people who haven't played that portion of the game, but even if you play it again, the best thing to do is to find the door, clear out any enemies that are there, and then find the key card, because you can find the key card before turning on the generator. And then you find the door, and then turn on the generator, and then just beeline it to the door. I didn't get hit by a single character.
That whole section of the game was terrifying.
Yeah, it was.
It was better than anything in Dead Space. That was a very scary section.
I totally did not find the key card before turning on the generator. Terrible idea. One of the things that really stuck with me, I'm the kind of guy who plays a game like Skyrim kind of thing and reads a lot of the folklore in the game. And the whole storyline with the sewers and Ish, that, like, I found all the notes that were signed Ish, like all the storyline behind, like, you see a note with the woman who was with the kids in the room, and the clickers were outside the door, and you see the corpses, and you know that she killed 6 kids and then killed herself.
Yeah, reading up on the storyline, even Bill's storyline, is key to really enjoying the game.
Well, some of those notes were the most emotionally, like, shocking parts of the game.
Like, you wouldn't know that Bill had a lover, basically, his partner,
who hated his guts.
Hated his guts, but. If you read into their story, it's like, I hate your guts, but still there's something there. There's like a level of emotion which you don't get from either Bill or the letter.
Yeah, well, you saw one where it was a letter written by a father, and once you finished reading it and then you looked up, you could see the dad's corpse, and then in his lap was obviously his wife and his child who he had to kill.
Yeah.
And, that's some pretty intense stuff.
Yeah.
And then the last part that was really emotional for me was Tess. And it wasn't that she died. It was that it was so flippant with how she died, in that she's staying at the front, and then, like, literally 10 seconds later, you just hear gunfire, target down.
Yeah,
and you're just like, that's it.
You know, it's funny. I didn't feel emotionally invested in Tess at all throughout the game, because I knew
she showed up.
I knew she was gonna die or something.
She was a bitch, but yeah, I liked how they killed her off, because there was no big emotional scene. It happened very quickly and very coldly.
I had no emotional attachment, and she was gone quickly. So
yeah, well,
that scene gets
they
an
just
A+
handled
for
it
me.
very coldly, and that's what I liked about it too. It wasn't long and drawn out.
I had no emotional attachment to Tess. For me, I had more emotional attachment to the young lady that I shot in the stomach when I saved Ellie. And that was weird because, like, she is the face of the Fireflies against you. I cannot forget. I forget her name at the moment.
I didn't like her because I knew I couldn't trust her.
But I had hoped that I had hoped that, considering she knew Joel, that there was some other connection there, some personal, like, understanding, like, oh, I know you lost a child, or I know that this isn't a proven way to save, and maybe keeping her alive is a good thing. I thought that character might have a redeeming moment, and for Joel just to be like, clack, and shoot her in the stomach was like, that for me was a little bit more emotional than Tess going.
I love Joel. He was great.
I had no emotional attachment.
Yeah, he's
to
hot.
Tess.
Also.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, if you haven't played the game yet, then why are you still watching this? But if you
if you didn't play the game, we probably ruined a lot of what you're going to end up figuring out.
Obviously, we all loved it. It's definitely a must-play. I've dabbled in the multiplayer. I'm not really all about it.
I don't know if it's a game to... Now, it's a game that it's like if you don't have a PS3, you can go out and get I guess if you're going out, you go to PS3. You're a little late. PS4 is coming out in a couple months.
It's still worth it.
It's a game. It is a game along with what other games Naughty Dog created that sells the PS3 more than Killzone, more than the other the Sony exclusives.
Like God of War, Little Big Planet.
God of War is fun.
Yes.
And it's great to play it on since it's an exclusive. But I think that The Last of Us is more of an experience.
Yes, absolutely.
You could see Kratos' family burn 100 times and not shed a tear compared to the one or two that I shed in The Last of Us. So Last of Us is a much more emotional. It's more of an experience that can be translated to a movie.
They're having downloadable content coming up soon, right?
And this is why Naughty Dog is getting approached to have movies made about their video games. It's because they make emotional movie-based video games.
Anytime there's a movie adaptation, I'm gonna watch the movie, but I'm gonna hate it. Suck. Yeah.
Because for me, video games are a higher form of entertainment than movies.
Class form of entertainment.
Make sure you check us out on
Great
Twitter.
Score. Listen to it. It's going right now.
It's GC_rewind on Twitter. Let us know what other games you want to see us rewind for you guys and talk about. Make sure you like and subscribe.
And then
next week we'll be talking Metro Last Light.
Another great sleeper game. This game, The Last of Us, you all should have seen it coming. We've been waiting for it for months, but Metro Last Light surprised the hell out of me. So check back next week for a game that's probably a little bit less expensive than The Last of Us. But you'll probably have as much fun playing and enjoy.
I don't know about as much fun.
Well, thanks for watching, and make sure you leave a comment down in the video on what you guys thought about The Last of Us. Until next week.
Where can we find you, Rachel?
You can find me on Twitter, which is @TheRachel.
Enough people found her already. It's fine. She can go over it. You can find me on Twitter at GAK.
You can find me at KORIOUS.
And you can find all of us on GC_rewind. Bye, guys.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff. We would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.